We are back! DCL is back! The World Championship for professional drone racing teams! Yes, a big challenge for our pilots. New tracks to challenge the best in the world. We've expanded the number of teams from 6 to 10. And we have so many more races. A 2-split season with a split finals in the middle and a World Championship Grand Final to fight for at the end of 2023. It's time to get the DCL Grand Prix Split 1 underway. Welcome everybody, I'm Matt Andrews and we are the Drone Champions League, ready to get 2023 into the air. 10 teams fighting across all of these episodes in all of these wonderful locations, new tracks in all of them to challenge the teams. They'll all be racing each other in a giant group stage. We'll be bringing you one of the duels every week, and at the end of the season we'll go to a live finals with 6 of the 10 teams fighting to be the split finals champion. Then we'll do it all again in split 2 before the World Championship showdown at the end of the year. Here's the teams fighting to be the world champion, starting with the 2-time reigning world champions Raiden Racing, who've brought silence to the starting lineup. X-Blades are the team they took the title from 2 years ago. Big news, they brought in the legendary Min Jae Kim from Korea. The loud and proud American team of Quad Force One Heads Up returns to the DCL. Propsicles still the captain. China Dragons have lost their team captain, but the 10-year-old prodigy Duona Lan, she's made it to the starting 8. SDT Perpetuum coin from Spain. Danube still the captain, but Alex Zamora has left the team. Now we welcome our new team, Cyclone Racing, where J-Box has come over from China Dragons. Haven Airborne, the legend Eric Holden from Apex Racing, he's returned. And for Alpha Prop Racing, his old teammate Geordie Peak is here. Thomas Pitmatter returns to the DCL. Rue comes over from Quad Force One. Mach 1's female drone racing team is representing the US, South Korea and more. And the DCL Wildcard team. 7 pilots who've made their name through the DCL draft. We're looking forward to seeing how they do against the professionals. So let's find where we're going to be racing today. It's our first look at the new track at the Great Wall of China and around the old, beautiful town of Simitai, where we raced with a real-life drone race back in 2018. First, they're going to weave their way through a couple of the old buildings, through the Torvald Pair, under this bridge here, and then 3 DCL gates await them around this bend before a 4th on a rooftop. Finish that, go under the bridge again, and head along the Jiaotang River before we come to this beautiful pagoda gate. Through the first third, corkscrew over the top, and out through the third section. Big bend across the river to the other side, some more gates, and then this ladder with a hard 180 through the top, back through the middle, and then another hard 180 to come out of the bottom. The river again, and up towards this incredible tower with a big 360-degree left-hand turn. Have to make it through all of those gates as you go before diving down. A slanted DCL gate, difficult to make it through. After that, some more weaving over the river, another 360 descending, and then you head, and don't get lost, towards the black Ascensio gate before you go onto your next lap, or into the finish gate after lap 3. Let's get into the racing! This week, China Dragons will take on the world champions, Raiden Racing. China Dragons racing in orange, Raiden Racing, of course, the team proudly in their black and yellows, as they always say to cheer themselves on. And we've got James Govey, that's clone number 1 in orange for China Dragons, and Vincent Mayans for Raiden Racing, starting off on lap number 1. Each of these races are going to be part of a best of 7. First, we line up 1 pilot from each team against another. Then 2 pilots from one team against 2 pilots from the other. 2 more pilots after that in another 2v2. And then we have the big heat where 4 pilots from each team will race each other. That's 4 races. If you win all of them, this duel is over. But as I say, it is a best of 7. So if it isn't settled after the big heat, we have another 2v2 and another 2v2. And if it comes down to a 3-all matchup so far, then we'll have 1 more race. 1 pilot against 1 pilot to take the whole thing. We're in the second lap now, just getting underway into that as we weave our way around the pylons and out through the gate with clone number 1 for China Dragons. 0.05 of a second ahead of Vincent Mines. They've been extremely close throughout the whole of the first lap. Under the bridge, Mines just moves alongside him. 0.006 of a second. Nothing between these two pilots, and of course they won't know where each other is. We're on board with clone number 1. He can't see Mines, so he knows that he's alongside him or maybe underneath him as he makes his way through the ladder. Along the slalom, beautifully done. Here's clone number 1's drone, with Mines now currently behind him as he was at this stage on the first lap. It's nice and careful from both of them, not attacking that too tightly. Mines drops another 10th as he did in lap number 1. You can just see him floating a little bit further behind. The dive to the bridge is good from Mines, but it was good from clone number 1 as well. This is a great showing from James Govey in orange. He only recently joined the DCL a couple of seasons ago. Mines been with us for a little bit longer and of course is a 2-time world champion. And the thing about Vincent Mines is he's probably the best finisher in the DCL. Never count him out. He's stolen wins from people by fighting to the very last inch. And he's looming all over the back of clone number 1 right now. 0.005 of a second. Surely he's going to take him on the gate. Not yet. Can he do it? They're running out of lap number 3 now. Mines going through the ladder brilliantly. Slightly better than clone number 1. He's just taken that lead. Now we come up to the tower. This will have to be great from both pilots. The pressure they're under. First race of the season. Winner gets the point for their team. They want to make a great impression. They want to get 2023 off to a winning start. They are dealing with this pressure and each other phenomenally well. We head back into the town. Slightly more hesitant for clone number 1. He's just given away a couple of tenths now. That's probably going to give it to Mines, and it does. Half a second between them at the end. Congratulations, Mines, getting the first point of 2023. Now for our first 2v2 of 2023. Clone number 1 and Vincent Mines are going to race each other again alongside their teammates Kryson for China Dragons and IQ0 for Raiden Racing. Mines and IQ0, along with some other pilots we'll see later on today, were the ones who secured both of the last 2 seasons of the World Championship for Raiden Racing. So China Dragons have got a challenge against them here. As you can see, Kryson getting off to a very shaky start. He's over a second, in fact 4 seconds now behind everybody. That's going to leave his teammate, clone number 1, who we saw fighting so well just now. Well, he's got a lot to do. He's 1.7 seconds behind the pairing of Raiden Racing, with Mines in front of IQ0 by almost half a second at the moment. You can just see clone number 1, the 2 Raiden drones making their way around the tower. Mines still with over a half a second lead on his teammates. Here's IQ's view as he's making way along the river and seeing his teammate in front, but that's wrecked it for IQ. Down into the river. He'll recover from that, but having lost a ton of time. Kryson at the back has also lost a ton of time as well and is really struggling on this first lap. Clone number 1 and Mines second and first respectively. A little bit of a repeat of the first race of the day. Mines putting in good lap times. Let's fly with him for a little bit. There's 2, 3, and now the 4th gate over the rooftop, and that is a great attack. Then the corkscrew is wonderful here, but coming out is a mess. Mines can't get out through the poles, and that is a challenge for our pilots. Some of them are trying to exit extremely early of that pagoda gate and come out through the side supports. It's a legal racing line, but it is so tight. It's only lap number 2. We've got a Mines against clone number 1. Chase again, but there's a lot more for Mines to do to try and catch clone number 1. And clone number 1, he'll be very confident having nearly beaten Mines in that last race. It's just the 2 of them up front. IQ's moved up a second, but he's still got 3 and a bit more to go. Kryson slipped further behind on his first race of 2023 into the 3rd lap of this race, with still over half a second between clone number 1 and Mines. I think clone number 1 may have made a little bit of a safer exit out of the first of the pagoda gates. Now he weaves to the right with Mines trying to catch him on every turn. 1/10 of a second has fallen, but he's got to do a lot more than that. And those corners are wonderful. How's his exit from here? It's super tight. He's made it out cleanly, but so is clone number 1. It's 0.4 of a second. The ladder is wonderful for Vincent Mayans, though. There's another 1/10 of a second gone. He is gaining on clone number 1. Can he make even more of a dent in that gap round the tower? It looks like he can. Clone number 1 a little bit higher than his exit might have wanted to be, but 0.3 is what he's got to do now. Mayans a little bit twitchy over that rooftop. It's smoother from clone number 1. Mayans doing everything he can, including that wonderful drop to try and catch him, but there's not a lot of race left. And Mayans with a bit of a bump before the end. Clone number 1 in the bottom right of your screen gets his first point, and China Dragons a win in the second race of the season. IQ's just come in. Chryson will be limping around Simitai and keen to forget all about that race. Congratulations, James Govey, clone number 1. He ties up the series for China Dragons. A great 2v2 there, and you can see some of the bumps along the way, including this very tricky pagoda gate. We'll be seeing who dares wins on that a few more times. Let's meet the other members of these teams. Creator Gamer and Ion FPV for China Dragons against the captain Longcat and Costa FPV for Raiden Racing. Solid start for everybody. All the orange and yellow drones, so far so good. Into the Torvol pairing. Costa FPV with his teammate just alongside him. Creator in front. Ion not far behind either. Ion FPV joined the DCL in 2022. Our first pilot representing India on the World Championship stage. He's in the mix of this now as Raiden's Longcat, David Modig, he of the proud beard in the top right of your screen. He's just a little way behind everybody else at the moment here on lap number 1. Heading down, Costa, his teammate, in the front. Ion, 0.09 of a second behind him. Then Creator Gamer, and then Longcat. There's Costa's view as he weaves back into Simitai Old Town. Coming through the Ascensio gate to start lap number 2. It's Costa back in the lead now. Then Ion. Creator Gamer's gone to the back, but his exit through the gate is pretty solid, so he's hanging on to everyone else. Longcat in the middle, slipping places, back and forth. Costa FPV out in front. Ion FPV in second place at the moment. 0.2 between them. Here's his teammate, Creator Gamer, weaving his way out quickly. Oh, you could sort of feel it coming, couldn't you, with the pylon and all of the structure. That sent him 2 going on 3 seconds behind everyone else. Now Costa is extremely low over the river. Still alive, but he's also a couple of seconds behind. It's looking like one of these 2 pilots might get the point for their team. We've got Ion FPV in orange. Longcat, the captain, in yellow. Going to come in on the inside of Ion FPV and exit out there and dive down through the DCL gate just around the end of the lap. Longcat has managed to just move alongside him, but there's nothing in it between the 2 of them as they start lap number 3 with that big, long 360 around over the top, back through the tunnel again. And to the river. Longcat just in front of Ion. There go the Torvol pair. Now we head up into the Old Town. 1, 2, 3, and the rooftop gate makes 4. Longcat, 1/10 of a second in front of Ion FPV. But that is all gone upside down and backwards for Longcat. Ion FPV pulls away by 3 seconds now. It's been pretty seamless by him as we watch the beautiful route. He's flying around China. Up to the tower now. Low entry onto the first one, but it's tight around the tower on all sides. The dive down, Longcat will have seen him cross over in front going down. Well, Longcat still had more to do going up. Ion FPV will have his team captain in his ear, I think, telling him, you've got this. You've got it safe. Make sure you pull it in. I think this might be Ion FPV's first win in the DCL, and there it is. Congratulations to him. Longcat comes in second, and a big crash behind them. But Ion FPV takes it for China Dragons, and they're 2-1 up. Now it's time for the return of the legendary Big Heat. We love this in the DCL, all the pilots from both teams fighting at the same time. And out of the blocks, all 8 of them go. It's a solid start on board here with Longcat doing the 360 well, but not the gate afterwards. He was at the front, he's now at the back. Early problems for him. His teammate Mayans at the front, Clone, Ion. We know these guys well now. They're in second and third behind him, Costa, Kryson. Kryson having a bit of a better race. Everybody within half a second of each other, but now it starts to fall apart at the back a little bit more. China Dragons weaving their way down the ladder in pairs. Mayans still out on his own, but at the front. Now up to the tower. Mayans over Ion and Clone FPV, nearly a half a second between them. He's weaving down now very nicely through this angled gate to the river. Not a problem. These 3 pilots in first, second and third know all of this particularly well right now. Is it Mayans and Clone number 1, do we think, who's going to be fighting at the end of 3 laps? It looks like IQ has had a real mess coming back into the old town. He's now 7 seconds behind everybody else. His teammate Costa almost 2 seconds behind. Mayans has a lot of time between him and his nearest teammate Longcat, but in that gap are 3 China Dragons pilots chasing him down, as you can see, on the second lap. Mayans still out in front, putting in good flying. Here's that gate, which has been a problem for a few of our pilots, including Mayans. Not this time. He's slightly pulled away from Clone and Creator Gamer. To the river, really attacking. You can see he's not taking any part of this easily. Round the big tower we go. Clone number 1 in second. He's lost a few more tenths on Vincent Mayans. Now heads down. We'll just see him under the bridge and then over the rooftops. Towards the latter parts of the lap now, to the town. The good dive from both of the pilots. Clone number 1 hasn't managed to close the gap yet. He goes a little bit wide on one of the later gates. And they go on to lap number 3. It's 7 tenths between Clone number 1 and the leader, who's currently Vincent Mayans. The first of the pagoda gates is good for both of them. It's the second one which caught Mayans out earlier on. It's coming up towards them very soon. We're on board with him now as we go back to the river, and then here comes that pagoda gate. The corkscrew is good. The exit is wrong again. He bumps onto the poles. That's a big problem for him, and Clone is almost a second away, so it's not quite as catastrophic as it was earlier, but now there's more problems. Mayans hits a pylon, hits the ground on the big path through this part of Scimitar that we know so well from 2018. He's now back even further behind Longcat. It's Clone number 1 and Ion FPV, the guys who won the last 2 heats. One of them is going to pick up another point for their team if all goes well. Commentator's curse hasn't happened so far, but it's early in the season. There's the Ascensio gate, and there's the finish.
Let's go, Clone, let's go.
Let's go.
1, 2, let's go.
China Dragons loving their results there, as you would expect. It's another point. They're in a 3-1 lead over the 2-time reigning world champions. This is where it all went wrong for Mayans. Up to the pagoda gate here, real problem for him. The series is 3-1 to China Dragons. One more win will give them the points over Raiden Racing in his first duel of the season. And we go back to 2v2s. Creator Gamer and Clone number 1 are the pairing for China Dragons. Mayans comes to the sky with Costa, knowing they have to win now. It's a best of 7. It's 3-1 for China Dragons. When we get to this next pair of 2v2s that we're seeing now, the pilots have to be in different orders than they were earlier on. You can't keep your pairings the same. And the pairings of all of the pilots and the choice of the pilot for the 1v1 at the start and maybe at the end of the series, those are all done without knowing who your opposition have picked against you. So you can't be tactical and choose maybe your best pilot against what you think is a slower one of theirs. You've got to decide without knowing when they're coming at you. Mayans, Clone number 1, again, first and second. Creator Gamer very much in the fight of this one. Don't count Costa FPV out either. As you can see, he's starting to move up alongside China Dragons. It's really just who's dealing with this pressure so well. All these pilots so close together in ability and on this track now as we move on to lap number 2. Mayans is a professional who can put the problems he's had with that second pagoda gate out of his mind. It shouldn't keep on affecting him. He shouldn't be nervous about it. He can't afford to be nervous about it. Here's clone number 1, who's only 3/10 behind him as we weave around it now. Clone number 1's the one who hit it. Maybe the commentator's curse is starting to loom for 2023. Mayans has got space now with Costa in reserve behind him. Up to the tower, Creator Gamer has passed clone number 1. We're only on the second lap, plenty of time for this all to change around for the team in orange. Raiden have to win. Costa's view, Mayans ahead of him. Mayans pulls back towards the old town now, coming towards the end of lap number 2. Very tight through the old buildings of Scimitar in the shadow of the Great Wall of China. And on to lap number 3, through this Fox here, 360. Pagoda Gate is good for both of the pilots in Raiden. Creator Gamer's still in the fight. Half a second between him and Costa, and a bit more if he wants to catch Vincent Mayans. I don't think he can close that gap himself when the two Raiden pilots are cornering so well, and both of them escape the Pagoda Gate unharmed this time. If Creator's going to catch them, he needs these Raiden pilots to make some mistakes. And it looks like they've got it together for this race. Creator Gamer slips a little bit further back. Costa fancies trying to take his teammate Mayans on the way up to the tower.
Exactly. You did well.
The dive down is good. The route back to the last section of the track is looking pretty solid. Around the pylon, under the bridge, back to this 360 dive down, which is such a tight bit of cornering, and you get to see it very late. They've got this nailed. Mayans is home. Costa is in with him as well, to his relief, as you can see. Then Creator and Clone a little bit further back. 3-2. Raiden stay alive in this duel. So here is the other 2v2, the remaining pilots, Ion, FPV and Chryson against IQ0 and Longcat. Of those 4 pilots, Ion FPV has had the cleanest run of things. He won in his 2v2 earlier on today. Cryson's bumped around a bit. IQ's had a few issues here and there. Longcat's had one of the most inconsistent performances I've seen from him. Such a solid pilot, always trying to lead his team. Here he is, Chryson in front of him, Ion behind him to the Pagoda Gates. You can just see Chryson. Beautiful flying from him out through the poles. That was tight in and tight out again, and Longcat is throwing everything he's got at them, but the slalom has caught him out. He's now all the way down at the back, and China Dragons are in a 1-2 with IQ0 trying to do something about it. Longcat unhappy with that. Down at the bottom right, you see Ion FPV focused on his lead. Chryson just a little way behind him. This is much better flying from him. China Dragons can win this race. They will get the first win over Raiden, the current world champions. And that is an enormous result for them. Raiden are a team who've gone from not scoring a single point in an entire year to a 2-time world championship team and have left China Dragons behind. But China Dragons' recent years have been the best that they've had. Is this the year where they can really start to challenge right at the top? A win over Raiden would be a great statement to start this new format and this new spring split. And right now, Ion in the front where he needs to be. Chryson, Longcat has passed IQ0, who slipped a few seconds behind. At this stage, you have to wonder, is Raiden going to be able to do anything about this? Ion FPV has just blossomed into such a smooth pilot from his debut with us last year to now. This is great flying from him. Better performance from Chryson, but even he has slipped a long way behind Ion FPV now. And I think we're seeing Ion FPV being told, right, this race is yours. This series, this duel with Raiden Racing belongs to China Dragons if you can just keep flying this smoothly. And it's beautiful work from him. It's not slow. He's not taking it too safely. There's the Torvald pairing at speed. The bridge is good. Now making his way through the streets and up and over the rooftop with nobody close to him. Chryson has gained a few tenths. That's what I mean by I think Ion is just holding it back a little bit. Now to the ladder. No problem. Beautiful weaving one side to the other. This 19-year-old pilot from Bangalore is making such an impact for China Dragons at the start of this season. Up the tower is all his. The way down, the gap to Chryson has doubled. Scimitar is where the China Dragons look like they are really going to make a massive statement for 2023. The last couple of gates for Ion FPV through the Ascensio gate and a win! And a 4-2 series win at that!
Let's go,
One.
boys. Yeah,
Dang.
beat Raiden.
Let's go. Who even is Raiden?
Ion FPV
I'm sorry,
helps
guys.
China Dragons make a massive impact at the start of 2023 with a win over the reigning world champions. For 2, China Dragons beat out Raiden Racing thanks to the performances of Clone Number 1, Kryson, Iron FPV and Creator Gamer. Elsewhere in the league, the new team Cyclone get a win, X-Blades, Quad Force 1 and STT Perpetuum Coin all get wins over their opposition. 4-0 wins mean that Cyclone Racing, new to the DCL, are tied at the top of the league with X-Blades and Quad Force 1. We'll be back in Oil Bandar in the USA for our next location, and in the meantime you can keep up with all the news on DCL.aero and all of our social media. We'll see you in the skies!